The storm on Varun didn't fall like rain. It punched the ground, turning the black stone arena into glass. Lightning stitched the sky in violet threads, and every flash revealed faces in the crowd, tall aliens with pale hair and ink-dark eyes, watching a duel that looked more like an execution. Jace Holloway never meant to be here. His ship, the Ruxluck, had limped into orbit with a cracked coolant line and a fried nav coil. Repairs took time. The storm grounded shuttles. So he waited under a carved stone awning, hands tucked into his jacket, pretending the shouting didn't interest him. But shouting always interested humans. Especially when someone was about to die. In the circle below, a woman fought with a blade that didn't look like metal. It looked like moonlight made solid. The sword's surface held faint lines that glowed when she moved, as if the weapon remembered old songs. She was losing. Her opponent was massive, four-eyed, armored in crimson plates, his strikes heavy and cruel. Each swing forced her backward until her heel slipped on wet stone. She went down hard, one knee slamming the ground. Blood the color of dark ink smeared across her palm. The crowd roared approval. A hunched elder beside Jace spoke in clipped trade speech. Outworlder. Leave. This is Kirith clan law. Jace kept his eyes on the woman. Who is she? The elder's jaw tightened. Sarai of House Kirith. Last blade of a dying line. And him. Vorlek of House Run. He fights to claim her lands. If she falls, Kirith ends. Sarai tried to rise. Her arm shook. The glowing blade trembled in her grip. Vorlek lifted his weapon for the final strike. The crowd leaned forward, hungry for the ending. Sarai's voice cracked but stayed proud. I do not yield. Jace felt something twist in his chest, an old, familiar anger. He'd seen that look before on border worlds, on mining stations, in cities ruled by bullies with better weapons and louder laws. Vorlek stepped in. Jace moved. He didn't think. Humans rarely do their best thinking before the jump. They do it during the fall. He shoved through the ring of onlookers, boots slipping, heart hammering. Someone shouted at him in a language his translator couldn't catch. Sarai's eyes widened, less hope, more horror, as if she knew something he didn't. Vorlek's blade came down. Jace grabbed Sarai's fallen sword. The impact rang out like a bell struck by a god. Moonlight met steel. Sparks burst white in the rain. Jace's arms jolted to the bone, but he held. The strange sword was warm in his hands, almost pulsing, like it was alive and angry. The entire arena went silent. Vorlek stared at Jace as if a storm had grown a face. Outworlder, he hissed. That is not your blade. Jace swallowed, steadying his stance. Then stopped swinging at someone who can barely stand. Sarai pushed herself upright, shaking. Human, she breathed. Put it down. Now. What? Why? The elder from earlier stepped forward, joined by robed figures whose markings shimmered silver on their skin. Their eyes fixed on the sword in Jace's grip like priests spotting a miracle. One of them raised a staff. The blade has accepted. A low murmur rolled through the crowd, half shock, half delight. Sarai's face drained of color. Jace looked at her. Accepted what? The elder's voice carried over the storm, cold and absolute. By first law of Varun, unbroken since the founding moons, the one who wields a clan sword in defense of its bearer becomes bound in blood and vow. Jace blinked. Bound how? The elder pointed at Sarai. As her lawful husband. The silence snapped into chaos, shouts, laughter, angry cries. Vorlek stepped back, stunned for a heartbeat, then his expression curled into something pleased, like a predator realizing the trap had closed. Jace's mouth opened. No sound came out. He'd faced raiders, corporate killers, and vacuum leaks that would shred a man to ribbons. None of that prepared him for the words lawful husband spoken by an alien priest in the middle of a storm. Sarai's voice went sharp. You shouldn't have touched it. I was stopping him from killing you. And you did, she said, eyes blazing. And now you've chained yourself to my house. The robed elders formed a ring, ceremonial and unyielding. The The duel is suspended, the elder announced. Bond right begins at dawn. Vorlek's grin returned. Let him bond. Then we watch him fail. A human can't survive our laws. Jace stared at the sword, at the faint glow under his fingers. It felt certain. Like the weapon wasn't asking permission. Sarai looked away, jaw tight, rain slicking her pale hair.
Come.
If you're my Bond, she spat the word like poison, then you are now my responsibility until the council decides your fate. Jace followed because he didn't know what else to do. The crowd parted like water around them. Above the arena, thunder rolled. Jace had come to Varun for a quick repair. He was leaving with a sacred blade, an angry clan, and a wife who looked like she wanted to throw him off a mountain. And the worst part? The sword still felt warm, like it was quietly saying, "Good. Now begin." Sarai led Jace through a fortress carved into the mountain itself. The walls weren't built, they were cut, smooth as bone, lined with silver inlays that caught torchlight and turned it into soft glow. Every corridor carried the smell of wet stone and old smoke. Jace kept his hands visible like she ordered. Not because he respected alien rules, because he could tell these people respected fear more than logic. They reached a chamber where 7 elders waited in a half-circle. Their robes carried symbols that looked like stars folded into blades. In the center sat a woman so old her hair pooled on the floor like snow. Sarai bowed, despite her injuries. "High Elder Mera. I bring the one the sword accepted." Mera's gaze landed on Jace. It was calm, heavy, and dangerous. "Human. Speak your name." "Jace Holloway," he said. "Captain of the Rook's Luck." A male elder clicked his tongue. "A drifter." "Mercenary," Jace corrected. "Sometimes." Mera lifted one finger. The room quieted. "You understand why you stand here?" "I stopped a murder," Jace said. "If that's illegal, your laws are broken." A ripple of offense moved through the elders. Sarai's shoulders tightened like she expected them to strike him. Mera didn't flinch. "Our laws are not broken. They are old. Old laws are not gentle." Jace looked at Sarai. "Tell them I didn't know." Sarai's voice came flat. "Ignorance does not unmake a vow." Mera nodded once. "True." Jace exhaled slowly. "So what now? You just marry us and call it destiny?" A different elder leaned forward, eyes shining with interest. "The blade would not accept you unless you were compatible." Jace's brow furrowed. "Compatible how?" Sarai's face hardened. "Do not make it vulgar." Jace held up a hand. "I'm not. I'm asking what you mean." Mera answered calmly. "Bloodline. Physiology. The sword holds the memory of House Kirith. It chooses a continuation when the line is near its end." Sarai's hands curled into fists. "My father was poisoned. My house fell. This duel was my last chance to keep our lands. I fought because there was no one left." Jace heard something roar beneath her words, fear dressed as anger, grief welded into pride. For a moment he saw her not as an alien noble, but as a person carrying a broken world on her shoulders. A booming voice cut through the chamber. Vorlek strode in without permission, clad in ceremonial crimson. He didn't bow. He didn't need to. His confidence filled the space like smoke. "This bond is a joke," Vorlek said. "A human cannot be a clan husband. He cannot meet our duties." Mera's eyes narrowed. "You question the blade." "I question the human," Vorlek snapped. "Let him prove he belongs. Or dissolve this farce and give Kirith lands to the strong." Sarai stepped forward, voice sharp. "My house is still lawfully seated." Vorlek smiled. "Because the council is sentimental." Jace took one step forward. "What are these duties, exactly?" Vorlek's eyes glittered. "Defense of territory. Public honor. Council participation. And the producing of heirs, strong heirs." Jace coughed. "Okay, that last part." Sarai cut him off. "Enough." Mayra raised her staff. Silence. Vorlek's challenge is accepted in form. Sarai's head snapped toward the High Elder. Accepted. Mayra's expression didn't change. Not because I favor him. Because the people will not accept a bond they believe is weak. Jace felt the room tilt slightly. He hated politics. Politics always found a way to turn survival into a performance. Mayra continued. By council law, the bonded outsider has one moon cycle to prove worth. Vorlek's grin widened. He will not last a week. Mayra's voice turned colder. He will be under Kirith protection. Any harm done before the trials is punishable by exile. Vorlek inclined his head just enough to pretend respect. Then let the trials come sooner. I request an early council session. Let all houses witness. Sarai's face tightened. You're forcing a public test. Vorlek looked at Jace like he was measuring a tool. Humans love courage. Let him show his. He left as quickly as he entered. When the doors shut, Sarai turned on Jace. You should have stayed under the awning. I would have watched him kill you. And now you've given him a different way to kill us, she said. Jace didn't answer with jokes this time. Then teach me. Fast. Sarai stared at him, as if searching for the lie. What are you? She asked quietly. A hero? A fool? Jace met her eyes. A human. That didn't sound like an answer, but on Varun it landed like a threat. Sarai's voice softened by a hair. Then listen. Our world tests men with tradition. But tradition is a weapon too. If you wield it wrong, it cuts you first. Jace nodded. I've handled sharp things. Sarai turned toward a corridor lined with old banners. Come. The council meets tomorrow. Jace followed. Behind them, somewhere deeper in the mountain, the sacred sword rested in its chamber, waiting. And in the quiet between thunder, Jace realized something terrifying. He wasn't fighting to win a duel anymore. He was fighting to earn a place in a world that wanted him to fail. The arena at dawn looked different. Less storm, more judgment. The wet stone steamed as sunlight hit it, and the crowd packed in tight, eager for a show. Sarai stood beside Jace in ceremonial black and silver. She tied a strap around his forearm, Kirith markings stitched into the fabric. Her fingers were steady, but her eyes weren't. Remember, she said. They expect you to fight like a human, heavy, direct. Jace flexed his hands. I can do direct. No, Sarai said. Do unexpected. A horn sounded. The High Elder's voice rose. First trial, the body. Yield or fall. Vorlek stepped forward, smiling. I name my champion, Korax of House Run, Breaker of Bones. Korax entered the circle like a living wall. 4 eyes. Scarred armor. A practice blade designed to disable, not kill, though the difference felt thin. Korax bowed to the elders. Then to Sarai. Not to Jace. I hear humans are stubborn, Korax said. I will enjoy proving you are also fragile. Jace lifted the training sword Sarai gave him. It was heavier than it looked. The grip rubbed his palm raw. The horn blew again. Korax moved with terrifying speed. His first strike nearly took Jace's head. Jace ducked, felt wind from the swing, and rolled on wet stone. Korax didn't chase like a brute. He cut angles, controlled space, and forced Jace backward with clean precision. Jace took a shallow hit on the ribs. Red blood showed. The crowd reacted, alien voices rising. Vorlek called loudly, first blood. Sarai's jaw clenched. Jace backed away, breathing hard. He'd fought armed humans before. But alien muscle and alien timing turned every assumption into a mistake. So Jace did what humans do best when the rules are unfair. He improvised. Instead of meeting Korax blade to blade, Jace began moving like he was losing on purpose. Stumbling. Overcommitting. Letting Korax think the pattern was solved. Korax advanced, confident, ready to end it with a disabling cut to the leg. Jace waited until Corax's weight shifted forward. Then Jace dropped his sword. The crowd gasped. Corax blinked, confused for half a heartbeat. That half heartbeat was enough. Jace lunged barehanded, grabbed Corax's weapon arm, and slammed his shoulder into Corax's chest. They hit the stone together, Corax's balance destroyed. Alien technique expected duels. Humans expected brawls. Jace rolled, trapped Corax's wrist with both hands, and used his whole body like a lever. He didn't try to break the arm. He twisted until the fingers released the blade. The weapon clattered across the arena. Silence fell so hard Jace could hear his own heartbeat. Corax stared at his empty hand, shocked. Jace stood, chest heaving, and kicked the blade away. "I yield." Corax muttered, disbelief thick in his voice. Jace shook his head. "No. You yield." The High Elder lifted her staff. Champion disarmed. Trial 1, passed. The crowd erupted, not in approval, not in anger, but in something new, confusion mixed with reluctant respect. Sarai exhaled as if she'd been holding her breath since the bond formed. Vorlek's smile faded. The second trial began in the council hall that same day. It wasn't about strength. It was about knowledge, history, law, and the subtle traps of tradition. A robed elder placed a stone tablet before Jace. Answer. Fail, and the bond dissolves. Sarai stood behind him, silent by rule. Her eyes, though, spoke in tiny movements, warnings when a question was bait, tension when a wrong word could start a riot. The elders asked about old wars, land claims, marriage law, clan voting rules. Jace didn't know their names. He didn't know their songs. So he did something else humans do when they don't know the map. He looked for the pattern. He listened to how the elders phrased questions. He noticed which ones were simple facts and which ones were traps meant to force him into insulting someone. When asked, "Why is House Kirith unworthy of its northern mines?" Jace didn't answer with pride or anger. He answered like a negotiator. "A house is not worthy because it is strong," Jace said. "A house is worthy because it keeps its people alive and keeps its promises. If the mines feed families, then worth comes from protecting those families, not from stealing the mine." The chamber went quiet. That wasn't the traditional answer. It was human. An elder tried again. If a law causes harm, should it remain? Jace paused. He could feel Vorlek watching from the side like a knife waiting to fall. "If a law causes harm," Jace said slowly, "then it's either a bad law or it's being used by bad people. Humans learned this the hard way. We didn't survive by pretending pain was holy. We survived by fixing what broke us." Sarai's eyes widened slightly. The elders murmured. Mayra leaned forward. "You speak as if you have changed your own laws." Jace gave a small, tired smile. "More times than I can count." The final question came like a blade. Why should Varun accept an outsider into sacred blood? Jace looked at Sarai. Just for a second. Then he faced the council. "Because the sword chose," he said. "And because you need something your enemies don't understand." Mayra's expression sharpened. "And what is that?" Jace's voice stayed calm, but it carried. A human's refusal to die quietly. The High Elder tapped her staff once. Second trial, passed. Vorlek's eyes burned. Sarai didn't smile. But when Jace walked past her, she leaned close and whispered, almost too softly to translate. "Do not think you are safe yet." Jace nodded. "I wasn't planning on it." Because everyone knew the third trial, the spirit trial, was where outsiders disappeared. And the sacred sword was waiting. The chamber of the clan sword was colder than stone should be. Silver lines ran along the walls like veins, converging on a pedestal where the sacred blade rested. It looked calmer now, as if the storm had never existed. But when Jace approached, the air thickened, like the room itself was holding breath. Mayra stood at the entrance with 3 elders. Third trial, the spirit. You will touch the blade and walk its memory. Many do not return whole. Jace glanced at Sarai. She couldn't enter. Only the one being tested. Sarai's voice tightened. If you feel it trying to crush you, let go. Jace lifted an eyebrow. Let go of the sacred sword that already chose me. Yes, Sarai said. Pride kills faster than steel. Jace nodded once. Then stepped forward and gripped the hilt. Warmth surged up his arm. The world vanished. He stood in a different place, an endless plain under two moons. Figures moved in the distance, made of light and shadow. He realized he wasn't seeing with eyes. He was remembering something that wasn't his. A voice spoke, not in words, but in feeling. Protect. Jace turned and saw Sarai, yet not Sarai. A younger version, a child with silver hair, holding the sword too large for her. Behind her, a man with proud posture, her father, knelt and placed his hand on hers. The line endures if the heart endures. Then the memory shifted. A feast hall. Laughter. Wine. A cup offered. Sarai's father drank. Pain. He collapsed. Faces blurred, fear, guilt, and a shadow at the edge of the hall wearing crimson. Jace felt rage pulse through the blade like fire. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a witness. It remembered the poison. Another shift. Sarai older, alone, kneeling before the sword, whispering to it in grief. Choose someone. Anyone. Do not let us end. Jace's chest tightened. The blade wasn't hunting romance. It was hunting survival. Then the final memory came like a knife. Vorlek, speaking with an off-world trader in a hidden corridor. A thin device exchanged hands. A poison. A plan. Jace's breath caught. It wasn't only clan rivalry. It was an operation, someone feeding house-run power from outside. And if an outsider was involved, this was bigger than land. Bigger than marriage law. The memory plane trembled. The blade's voice pressed harder. Fight. Jace planted his feet. I will, he said, even though no one could hear him but the sword. The plane shook again, and shadow figures rose, ancestors, judges, warriors of Kirith. They surrounded him, silent, waiting for one thing. Proof. Jace didn't have alien bloodline pride. He didn't have sacred vows from childhood. He had something else. He thought of Earth, of humans rebuilding cities after fires, learning to breathe underwater, turning scrap into shelter, and making jokes at funerals because laughing was how they spit in death's face. He lifted the sword in the memory world. I'm not your perfect choice, Jace said. But I'm the choice you got. And I don't quit. The ancestors surged forward like a wave. Jace didn't swing at them. He stepped into them. He let the fear hit him, let the grief hit him, let the weight of a dying house crush his lungs. Then he pushed back with a stubborn, simple human thought. Not today. The wave broke. Light rushed in. The shadow judges paused. Then, one by one, they lowered their heads. Acceptance. Jace gasped and woke on the stone floor, hand still on the blade. His whole body shook. Sweat soaked his shirt. His eyes burned. Mera's voice came from far away. He returns. Sarai rushed to him before the elders could stop her. She knelt, face close, searching his eyes as if checking whether he was still him. Jace swallowed. Your father was poisoned. Sarai froze. What? And Vorlek's people, Jace coughed, throat raw. They met with an off-worlder. This isn't just tradition. It's sabotage. Sarai's expression turned deadly calm. The blade showed you this. Jace nodded. It remembers everything. Mera stepped closer, eyes sharp. If you speak accusation, you must bring proof. Jace forced himself to stand. Then we get proof. Humans are good at that. Sarai looked at him in a new way, not as an accident she was stuck with, but as a weapon she might actually wield. Outside, the crowd waited for the spirit trial result. Vorlek waited too, confident that the sword would break the human's mind. Jace stepped out with Sarai beside him. When the High Elder announced the third trial passed, the arena exploded with noise. Vorlek's face didn't show panic. It showed calculation. He bowed politely, then said loud enough for the crowd, "Then the bond stands, until the final reckoning. Land disputes remain. Challenges remain." Sarai's hand drifted near her own blade. Jace leaned toward her and whispered, "He's going to move fast." Sarai whispered back, voice like ice, "So will we." Because now Jace didn't just need to survive. He needed to outthink a clan, expose a conspiracy, and protect a house that had been bleeding for generations. And he needed to do it with aliens watching his every breath, waiting for him to slip. Humans, unfortunately for them, were very good at slipping into places nobody expected. That night, Sarai took Jace to the Northern Archive tunnels, old mining routes that ran beneath the fortress like veins. The elders didn't like outsiders in sacred places, but Sarai didn't ask permission anymore. "This is where my father kept records," she said. "Trade logs. Council notes. Names." Jace shone a small human worklight across stone shelves. "If an Offworlder paid house run, there will be a trace." Sarai's lips pressed tight. "Unless the council hid it." "Then we find what the council missed," Jace said. Hours passed. Dust. Old metal. Silence broken by distant thunder. Then Jace found a sealed container wedged behind a cracked pillar. Inside were thin data slates, primitive, but readable. One name appeared again and again next to fuel shipments, medical supplies, and private security. A trader company with no Varun registration. Jace's jaw tightened. "This isn't local." Sarai read the symbol, eyes narrowing. "That mark. I've seen it on a ship at the port." Jace stood. "Then we don't just win a legal fight. We catch the supplier." At dawn, Sarai requested a public hearing. Vorlek laughed at the message, confident it was desperation. The council gathered. The crowd gathered. Even neutral clans arrived, curious for blood or scandal. Mayra sat in the center, her staff resting across her knees. "Speak." Sarai stepped forward. "House Run claims strength and tradition, but their rise smells of foreign poison." Murmurs spread. Vorlek's smile was lazy. "Accusation without proof is shame." Jace stepped beside Sarai. "Then let's do proof." He displayed the slate logs. The symbols translated across the chamber's screens. Names. Shipments. Hidden payments. Vorlek's four eyes narrowed. "Forgery." Jace nodded calmly. "Could be. So we test it." He turned to Mayra. "Do you have truth scan rights? Memory verification?" Mayra's gaze sharpened. "We do." Jace pointed toward Vorlek. "Use it on him. If he's clean, I'll kneel and accept exile." The room inhaled. Sarai stared at Jace, surprised by his willingness to gamble his life on his claim. Vorlek's smile slipped. "Just a little." He recovered fast. "The human demands sacred right on a clan head? Arrogance." Jace shrugged. "On Earth, we call it if you didn't do it, you shouldn't fear the test." The neutral clan leader, Lady Thalen of the Spiral House, lifted a hand. "If the human offers exile, the request is fair." Vorlek's gaze flicked to Thalen, then back. He couldn't refuse without looking guilty. Mayra's staff tapped once. "Bring the truth scan." When the rite began, Vorlek's posture stayed proud, but sweat beaded at his temple. The silver-marked priests placed their hands near his head, chanting in low tones. Then the chamber screens flashed. A memory fragment, Vorlek meeting the off-world trader. Another, the poison device. Another, Vorlek smiling as Sarai's father drank. The crowd erupted, rage and shock mixing into one roaring storm. Sarai's face didn't move, but her hands trembled, just once. Mayra's voice cut through. "House Run is guilty of sacred betrayal." Vorlek exploded. "You fools! You don't understand. Varun was always going to fall. The Dominion is coming." Jace's head snapped up. "Dominion?" Vorlek laughed. "Wild now. An empire beyond your moons. They buy leaders. They buy worlds. I was making us useful to them. The truth hit the crowd like a physical blow. Sarai stepped forward, voice steady. You sold our dead to save yourself. Vorlek's hand darted toward a hidden weapon. Jace moved first. Not with tradition. With instinct. He slammed Vorlek's wrist into the council table, pinned him, and used a small restraint cable from his repair kit, simple, cheap, human, to lock Vorlek's arms behind him. The room froze. Then someone laughed, a short, startled sound. A neutral clan warrior said, half-awed. He bound him with rope. Jace panted. Cable tie. Mayra stood. House Run is stripped of claim. Their lands are seized until judgment. The crowd roared, this time in approval. But Jace wasn't celebrating. Vorlek said the Dominion is coming. Sarai looked at him, eyes sharp. Then this is bigger than my house. Jace nodded. Then we stop it together. In the days that followed, something impossible happened on Varuun. Clans talked instead of stabbed. Rivals shared information. Warriors trained side by side. Sarai used the proof to force alliances. Thalen helped rally neutral houses. And Jace did what humans always do when faced with a stronger enemy. He built a plan using scraps, courage, and pure disrespect for impossible odds. He turned the old mine tunnels into sensor traps. He rewired the fortress defense grid using parts from the Rook's Luck. He taught Kirith engineers human dirty tricks, decoys, false signals, heat flares, and simple math that made enemy targeting systems lie to themselves. When the Dominion scout fleet finally arrived, sleek ships like knives, the planet didn't greet them with fear. It greeted them with confusion. Their sensors screamed of hundreds of defenses that weren't real. Their landing teams ran into tunnels that shifted routes, doors that sealed, and lights that turned darkness into a weapon. And on the arena grounds where Sarai once nearly died, the clans stood united, blades raised, hearts steady. Sarai looked at Jace under the twin moons. You were an accident. Jace smirked. Humans have a history of weaponizing accidents. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. You are still bound to me by the sword. Jace glanced at the sacred blade, then back at her. I know. Sarai's voice softened, just enough. And if the law did not demand it? Jace paused, honest for once. Then I'd still stay. Because this place matters now. For a moment, the world felt quiet, like the blade itself was listening. Then the Dominion's first dropships broke through the clouds. The battle that followed was brutal, loud, and unfair. Which was exactly how humans liked it. Because when the universe finally pushed Varuun to the edge, humanity pushed back. Not with perfect tradition. With clever traps, stubborn unity, and a refusal to let anyone's story end in silence. And when the smoke cleared, the elders didn't just call Jace a husband. They called him something rarer on Varuun than sacred steel. A maker of futures.